Hi Hind and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I'm Anand Narasimhan. A day after the Congress General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi Vadra filed her nomination for the Wayanad Lok Sabha by-poll and declared a total income of over 46.39 lakh in the financial year 23-24, including rental income and interest from banks and other investments, Robert Vadra, Priyanka Gandhi Vadra's husband, has been accused of hiding his actual net worth. Now, Priyanka Gandhi Vadra has assets worth nearly 12 crore rupees, while her husband, Robert Vadra, has assets worth nearly 66 crore rupees. And this is what the poll affidavit shows. This has been filed by Priyanka Gandhi Vadra herself in Wayanad, and she has signed that affidavit. Now, this is the first time that the asset value of the Vadra couple has been made public. Now, Priyanka Gandhi Vadra's most valuable asset is a nearly 12,000 square feet farmhouse near Shimla, which has a current market value of 5.6 crore rupees or thereabouts approximately, as per the affidavit. She also owns a Honda CR-V car worth 8 lakh rupees, which is a gift from her spouse. As per the affidavit, she owns mutual funds at a current market value of 2.24 crore rupees and jewelry worth 1.16 crore rupees. Her husband Robert Vadra is much richer, but the income tax wants 80 crore from him in terms of tax dues. Robert Vadra owns a Land Cruiser worth 53 lakh rupees, a Mini Cooper worth 1.5 lakh rupees, and a Suzuki motorcycle worth 4.22 lakh rupees. Now, he's also a partner in various limited liability partnerships worth 35.5 crore rupees. Now, these are Blue Breeze Trading LLP, North India IT Park LLP, and Skylight Hospitality LLP. Now, Skylight rings a bell, doesn't it? Now, the balance in the last LLP for Vadra is 31.93 crore rupees. Robert Vadra also owns various properties in Gurugram worth 27.64 crore at current market value. He had bought these properties at 2.78 crore and invested rupees 3.62 crore in them through development. Now, Robert Vadra has liabilities worth nearly 10 crore rupees as well, as per the poll affidavit filed by Priyanka Gandhi Vadra. Now, the affidavit also reveals that the Income Tax Department had initiated assessment proceedings on March 28, 2023 regarding returns filed by Robert Vadra over 11 years. From 2010 to 2021, the total demand raised by the IT department from Robert Vadra is to the tune of 80 crore rupees. The biggest demand of 24.16 crore rupees was raised by the Income Tax Department from Robert Vadra for the assessment year of 2019-2020. Now, I'm quoting, the above said orders have been appealed before the CITA. Currently, appeals are pending, the affidavit says, unquote. Now, the Vadra has also shown a total income of 15.09 lakh rupees in 2023-24, down drastically from 55.58 lakh rupees that he declared for 2019-20, while Priyanka Gandhi Vadra declared an income of 46.3 lakh in the last financial year. In fact, Priyanka Gandhi Vadra has declared much more income than Robert Vadra in her recent income tax returns through her total assets, though her total assets are much less than Robert Vadra, nearly a fifth of Robert Vadra. For example, Priyanka Gandhi Vadra declared an annual income of 46.3 lakh rupees last financial year and 47.21 lakh rupees in 2022-23, at a time when her husband declared an income of 15.09 lakh and 9.35 lakh as his income respectively. The BJP is now questioning this income disparity as well, saying that assets, income and tax, there is a mismatch.
ऐसा मैंने कहा, ये हलफनामा, ये एफिडेविट कबूलनामा है जो भ्रष्टाचार, नकली गांधी परिवार और उनके जीजाजी रॉबर्ट वाड्रा करते आए हैं।
जब भी उनकी नाकामियां को छुपाना होता है तो जहां भी कोई भी रीजनल पॉलिटिक्स होता है या जनरल होता है तो वहाँ मेरा नाम ज़रूर उठाते हैं कि वो जो लोगों को डाइग्रेस करते हैं जो रियल इश्यूज है, पर लोग जागरूक हैं, उनको समझ है।
इनकम टैक्स के प्रोसीडिंग्स में और जगह के प्रोसीडिंग में जो रेवेन्यू डिपार्टमेंट का है, आउट ऑफ प्रोपोर्शन ऐड कर दिया जाए, उसको कहते हैं एडिशन करना होता है। तो जब फाइनल एडजुडिकेशन हो जाएगा तब आरोप लगाएं तो समझ में इनके पास कोई और मुद्दा नहीं है।
Now, Multiple reactions that have come in from various corners, and each of them turning around and saying that what's the big deal, and these appeals are pending, and why look into it so much? Shazia Almi, national spokesperson of the BJP with us, Nikul Patel, leader of the Congress party with us, Abhishek Banerjee, columnist with us. Namaste and Jai Hind to everybody. Shazia Almi, where's the problem here? Why is the BJP jumping and perhaps biting at the bit on this poll affidavit?
So first of all, Anand, good evening. First of all, I'd like to say that there is something called the Representation of People's Act, 1951. Anybody who contests elections has to give this affidavit. You cannot mess around with a very sensitive and an important document such as your affidavit as to what your assets are, where you have invested all your investments, all your assets, all your earnings, all your savings, the details of your bank accounts, your bank balances, and all the immovable, movable property that you own has to be there. I have fought an election, so I know all about it. So that is extremely important, and that is what matters. So that is one. And why is it so important? Because here we're looking at a huge discrepancy. Now, you cannot even imagine, like we're looking at arrears of 80 crore of income tax. So imagine what kind of income would there be if you're looking at income tax, which would be around 30%, so to speak, of the total. So clearly there is something going on at a very high level. So it's not even small, it's bungling and of a highest order, which has to be unearthed. You know, it is like the National Herald story. What about young Indians and what transpired and the land holdings involved. You look at this, how is it even possible that the amount that is being shown as your asset or as your earnings or your entire balance is much less than the income tax that you owed to the Income Tax Department of India and to India, so to speak, to the government, is lesser than that. It is absolutely, I mean, ludicrous. So something is going on here which must be unearthed. I did not expect them to do such bad bookkeeping that they would be called out like this. I mean, somebody should have advised them, this is something you do not mess around with, because this is something else. And they have enough people who would be looking at it and saying, how is it even possible? So, and it does not, the dots don't connect, because because there has been, and they have been paying income tax, they have been evading tax, there have been notices given to them. So they're various and they're all there in the public domain. You can just go to the IT department and take that out. So how can they run away from that? Clearly a very bad job done. They have botched it up. It's always good to be honest and say, this is what I have. You can have Benami properties. You can give it to your aunts and uncles and rishtedars and stooges and drivers and all of those. That is all done. But here the discrepancy is huge. This is a crazy gap. So this is something that they'll have to answer for.
So Nikul Patel, that's the conundrum. उसके assets मेरे assets से ज़्यादा कैसे, पर उसकी income मेरे income से कम कैसे?
See, my friend Sajja tell that Representative of People's Act 1951. I thought that she might be telling that act is designed by Bharatiya Janata Party. अच्छा हुआ उसने ये नहीं बोला कि ये कायदा हमने बनाया था, नहीं तो बोल देती कि ये कायदा हमने बनाया है. Now secondly, we all know that whenever you are filing a nomination,
from a very serious.
He's answering.
He's answering.
He's answering.
Very serious one.
Try to understand and listen.
It was his opening remark as a jibe at the BJP. So we have to take it like that and then move forward into the argument. Yes, Nikul Patel.
BJP always say that we have done everything in this country for the first time, and that is why I put an opening remark like that. Secondly, my friend told that something going on at high level, and all candidates who are filing such nomination are there. We can say that lutera, क्या बोला, kabulatnama of Bhrashtachar. So I think every candidate who is filing under Representative of People's Act, whether it is from Bharatiya Janata Party or from Congress or from any political party, are filing kabulatnama of Bhrashtachar. This is the statement what Bharatiya Janata Party wants to say for every people who are declaring their assets under Representative of People's Act. Now coming back to Wayanad, if you see Wayanad,
only about Priyanka Gandhi. I'm talking about Priyanka Gandhi.
Yeah.
She's a party leader. She's just contesting from Wayanad. Have you heard of her?
Why are you
I'm sure
getting
you've heard of her,
frustrated?
right?
Let-
We're talking
Shazia-
about
Shazia,
her.
let him make
We're
his
talking
point and
about
then you
what
please
she has-
counter.
No, stay specific.
No,
Why
he's
are
coming
you
to
going-
Wayanad.
why are you
He's coming to
frustrating?
Wayanad. Yes,
Why are you
Nikunj.
getting frustrated? I am just
No,
replying to your
nobody is
query,
getting
what you're
frustrated. She
raising.
thought it is important for her to put her point and to make that intervention. I'm
So
just
I'm
requesting.
just putting
I'm
my
just
counter.
requesting all panelists to please first make their point and then there'll be enough time to counter. Please
I'm
complete.
just
Wayanad,
putting my
Nikul Patel.
counter.
हाँ जी.
Yeah.
And please come
Now
to the
one-
point, sir. भूमिका बहुत
Yeah.
आप बांध
Now
देते हैं कभी
when-
कभार.
Now, when we come to Wayanad election, Bharatiya Janata Party is not finding any of the point in the entire thing about Priyanka Gandhi Vadra, so that they want to just mute a voice that, see, this is what they are doing, Bhrashtachar. Till date, in the entire history, if something is happening, then since last 10 years, income tax department is there, is governed by whom? Then all EDs and CBIs, they are trying to do whatever they want, but they are not able to put anyone in behind the bars. If you feel that Congress is doing Bhrashtachar in this country, I wish that Ms. Shazia should ask the government that even Pradhan Mantri, who is speaking now and when, that all are Bhrashtacharis, so must be put behind the bars. They are not able to do it. Now, whenever any query is raised that about 80 crores, we are into appeal, and definitely as per the law, we have a due right. If some tax has been raised by the department, we can put our query. Let judiciary and let the tribunal decide what the outcome of that is. But over here, if you see, Wayanad and Raebareli, both were won by Rahul Gandhi ji, and we are sure enough that again Bharatiya Janata Party is not going to win this seat, and that is why they want to create some mess
Okay.
out of it, and they don't
So-
find anything wrong, and that is why they are sticking
Okay.
it to
If
this
you'll yield, let Shazia Almi
Kabula
counter
Nama
that.
Bhrashtachar.
Yeah, 10 saal, 10 years, you had the records. Even before 10 years, this issue of Robert Vadra has been raised. But what's been done about it? If there is a serious problem about his income and the tax that is owed, where are his assets frozen? Where is that matter settled? You raised National Herald, Shazia Almi.
Okay,
What's
so
happening on
there
that
is-
case?
so-
People are out on bail since 2015 on that case. Has it
Sure.
moved forward? So many questions are asked. You are in power. You got the government सत्ता आपके पास है. आगे बढ़ाइए.
So yeah, absolutely. So we are in power, and we are the government at the center in many states. But the fact of the matter is, when it comes to the National Herald case, you know that both Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi are out on bail, and this is under the judicial ambit, so to speak, and that is how it's going to be. If there was any real witch hunting, or then you would have seen very different results, right? If there was indeed any intervention or interference of the government, the very fact that the court is going slow, they're still out on bail, means that there is nothing being done which is targeting them. So that's a point that I want to make. Secondly, I have been waiting very patiently for what for my friend from the opposite side has to say about this complete disparity of income, not just between the spouses, but also of the IT notices that have been sent earlier. Now Robert Vadra has appealed and has answered, but the fact is that they have been left pending. The very fact they're now in light, because every time you make this affidavit, you have to show, and let me tell you, it's also the source of income. So as to how much you own and what is the whole trail, the provenance of it, so to speak, but also what has been your source, where you've earned the money from, how much tax have you paid, and so on and so forth. But here in this case, when you actually there to filing your affidavit,
Right.
you have to show all of your income and savings along with your husband's. So it is mandatory. Now a lot of things are clearly missing, and whatever property you own has to be shown at market value. You cannot say that this is so, this is also there. So now I am very amused and by this, that none of that is being discussed here, but that BJP is doing this, Congress is doing that. Nobody cares about that. This is
Right.
a very serious matter. It can get Priyanka Vadra in great trouble. Also, nobody knows what is the source of income of Priyanka Vadra Gandhi, of Robert Vadra. Surely they have offices, they have businesses, they have work. Now her income seems to have gone beyond Robert Vadra's. So people would want to know. It's for every citizen. Where have you got this money from? Has somebody gifted it to you? How has it come to you? Why is your name on it? What, this is your particular asset? Are you paying taxes on
Right.
this? So this is how it is. It is how the all over the world is how it works. Rules can't be different from the royal family of India.
Right. Nikul Patel and then Abhishek Banerjee is with us. Yes, Nikul Patel.
Just a short note on it. You asked ma'am about the government, what action is taken. She is telling that nothing is being done since long. So she is countering her own government that government is doing nothing. Appeals are in appeals are
No,
there.
no.
Judiciary, sir.
Yeah. The rule of law
But I
prevails.
didn't say that, right?
Rule of law prevails. The fact of the matter is.
The executive has to submit documents to the court.
Correct.
I don't understand.
No. 1 minute, Nikul Patel. If tomorrow the executive and the administrative wing start acting, then the Congress takes to the streets to say which hunt is happening. Today you are sitting here and saying what is happening, nobody is doing anything about it.
I am not telling.
No.
Shazia ji is telling.
No, I'm just saying you आप लोग का तो
See, I-
convenient
I-
है,
I-
आप लोग convenient है,
done.
जिस साइड से ढोल से आवाज ज्यादा आएगी उस साइड का ढोल बजाएंगे. But that's also politics. But please answer this: is it possible that you have assets of 88 crore but income of only 15 lakhs?
See, if opposition finds that the affidavit is false, they can file the complaint. And as per Representative People's Act 1951, the false affidavit is liable for cancellation of nomination. I would like to make clear of that. Now,
Yes.
whenever the affidavit filed, it is public.
Of course.
That is what I am telling. But in Wayanad, Bharatiya Janata Party feels that they are not going to win, and that is why they don't have any issue of there, and that is why they are raising.
Okay,
this.
so you are
People know
saying
very
that
well.
if somebody
This
wants to
document is
challenge
public.
this affidavit,
This document is public. Now, public will decide what is fact
So-
and
so
what
you-
is
you
wrong.
are- you are
But if
saying,
you
Nikul
telling
Patel-
that- if you are telling that last 10 years nothing action is being taken, then who is responsible?
correct.
Who is
The
responsible?
Income tax department is responsible, courts are responsible, and also the litigants are responsible. Be it National Herald, be it the aspect of Skylight Hospitality and what happened in Gurugram with the land grab and all that office for profit, etc. All the cases are still pending in our courts, and whether it's been put in cold storage deliberately or otherwise, that's how things are functioning. One wonders, because Abhishek Banerjee, if they want, they can have a sunwai at 5 a.m. If they want, they can have an urgent listing at 9 a.m. and have the hearing done at 4 p.m. and the judgment coming out by 6:30 p.m. So if that wants, the courts can do that. If they want, then it cannot be heard for about 10 years, and there can be entities who are in bail, who are out on bail on corruption charges, and by the Delhi High Court granted bail, and still active in politics and aspiring to be leaders of the future or whatever, however. So, but that's the system. Let me ask you this. Is it possible for you to have assets of 88 crore and still show an income of 15 lakh? Are you willing to believe the affidavit that's been filed, or are you willing to challenge this affidavit?
Yeah, so Anand, so I will basically make 3 points, all of them as just an ordinary person. The first thing is that just what, like you said, everybody in this country knows how the system works, how difficult it is to, bring or actually win any case against somebody as powerful as, the Vadra Gandhis. But, and the second point I would say is, today we are hearing that, there is some litigation pending, I'm sure, about how much amount, I'm not sure. I read somewhere it's almost 80 crores is the various pending charge disputes and all. Now, as a common person, I would ask, did the Congress party think that it is only today that this matter should have come out? If I go and ask somebody on the street that did you think that this information should have been in the public domain before? I understand that legally they were not required to put it. But if I go and tell an ordinary person that, Priyanka Gandhi Vadra and her family has been involved in tax disputes of almost 80 crore rupees, do you think this information should have come out before, or should it have come out last moment just because, the legal requirement is there before filing the nomination? I think the ordinary person will say, no, I should have known this long ago. And the fact that this information is only coming out at the last moment, when it is absolutely legally required, I think people will find it suspicious. And then, of course, when some people, they are claiming that, their assets are almost 80, 85 crores, or maybe I think 77 crores somewhere I read, is that, and their yearly income is only few lakhs, then I think many people will again find it suspicious. But at the same time, we are ordinary people. We know how the system works. We know how difficult it is to prove things in court against powerful
But
people.
aren't our
And
tax laws in our country, Abhishek Banerjee, such that income of the company need not necessarily mean income of an individual?
Yes.
So here he
Absolutely.
is declaring the income as an individual. He may have stakes and he may be director in companies, and some of these companies under which these holdings are happening they may be making money. That doesn't mean that accrues to the individual. But wouldn't you want to ask the BJP, who are crying foul on this affidavit today, what are you doing over the last 10 years about it?
Exactly. That is why this whole system is so murky, because all the levers of power, they have definitely been with the BJP. And at the same time, it has to be proved in court. So, litigation is going on. As a common person, I was very surprised to hear that such a big dispute of such a big amount is pending in court. I feel this thing should have been disclosed in public domain before. It is their legal prerogative. They can do what they want. But as a common citizen, I would have liked to know about this before. I feel bad that I'm only hearing this today.
Right, Shazia Almi, final word. Have to wind up. Ji. What are you doing about it? What is the BJP? What's the government? What's the income tax authorities doing about it?
So one personally, one was neither in the know, or nor was it interesting for me to know as to how much Priyanka Gandhi owned and how much her husband owned and how much did they declare. I thought they would be paying their taxes or whatever. But now when this is in public light, clearly they have bungled up in a huge way, because this is a huge anomaly. And it is not my business. This is between any individual, any citizen of the country and the Income Tax Department of India and the various agencies who work on it. It was not, there cannot be any malafide intent of any political party to go after anybody and have RTIs as to who's done what and how. Nobody's looking at that. But something like this, when it goes through scrutiny of the highest order, because this is an affidavit you're filing in the court.
Right.
There is bound to be a lot of answers that Priyanka Gandhi will have to give, Robert Vadra will have to give. Yeah, Income Tax Department too, as to why they've been dragging their feet. But the very fact that there were these notices asking for more than 80 crores makes you also wonder how much money was there to have 80 crores as an income tax.
Whether money was there, or was that just an overestimation by the income tax department, which then then the relevant party will have to argue and settle.
Whether it's overestimation.
My point is for the nearly a decade there are cases that are pending on office for profit and also clear case of corruption, which just needs to be getting into the motions with regular hearing, etc., which seem to have gone into cold storage. Now, who's responsible for that? And if the crackdown on corruption and the corrupt has really not happened under the BJP regime, can the BJP turn around and question this whenever any of the Gandhis comes and the spotlight is shown on them? I'm going to leave it at that at the moment. Thank you very, very much to our panelists. We're going to take a very, very short break. Abhishek Banerjee stays on with us for the next part. But when we're back, what's happening in Maharashtra, ladies and gentlemen? Election season, Mahayuti, Maha-Aghadi, who's got their seats done? Or have neither sides completely decided on the 288 seats? Is there friction on both ends? We'll get you the latest. Stay with us.
This Diwali, Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with Xi Jinping, the President of the People's Republic of China, on the sidelines of the 16th BRICS Summit at Kazan on 23rd October. This is the first bilateral meeting between the two leaders in the last 5 years. The Galwan clash had led to deterioration in relations between both sides and tensions at the LAC. This comes after India and China declared disengagement at all friction points at the LAC 2 days ago. But how was this achieved? The inside story we have from top government sources is that China was also eager to resolve the LAC issue lately. Mr. Modi's twin visits to Russia in the last 3 months, despite pressure from the US, got China on board for an agreement, top sources say. The talks reached an advanced stage in the last 6 months, leading to a full disengagement now. Top sources said that the disengagement and the de-escalation on LAC will be quick as well, with both sides eager to move fast to settle the issue. Patrolling from both sides will also begin soon on both sides of the LAC. The de-induction of the troops will be the final step of this process, which will depend on India's watch and verify approach with China. Well, the urgency to settle this issue quick reflected in Mr. Modi's talks with Jinping as well. Mr. Modi welcomed the recent agreement for complete disengagement and the resolution of issues that arose in 2020 in the India-China border areas. PM Modi also underscored the importance of properly handling differences and disputes and not allowing them to disturb peace and tranquility. The two leaders in fact have agreed that the special representatives on the India-China boundary question will meet at an early date to oversee the management of peace and tranquility in border areas and to explore a fair, reasonable and mutually acceptable solution to the boundary question. The early date being requested by both sides for these talks shows the urgency, as I said earlier, for a de-escalation on the LAC in a quickest possible time. The relevant dialogue mechanisms at the level of foreign ministers and other officials will also be utilized to stabilize and rebuild bilateral relations, a statement from India has said. The two leaders in fact affirmed that a stable, predictable and amicable bilateral relations between India and China as the two neighbors and the two largest nations on earth will have a positive impact on regional as well as global peace and prosperity. It will also contribute to a multipolar Asia and a multipolar world, the statement by India has significantly said. The two leaders have also underlined the need to progress bilateral relations from a strategic and a long-term perspective, enhancing strategic communication and explore cooperation to address developmental challenges. 31 rounds of diplomatic meetings and 21 rounds of military talks over 4 years and two crucial meetings that Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar and China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi in July has paved the way for India and China to achieve this agreement over disengagement at the LAC. There were 7 points of conflict on the LAC since the Galwan clash in 2020, 5 of which had seen disengagement, but the troops from both sides had remained in an eyeball-to-eyeball conflict in Depsang Plains and Demchok. Both sides have now disengaged on the remaining 2 points too. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with Xi Jinping, the President of the People's Republic of China, on the sidelines of the 16th BRICS Summit at Kazan on 23rd October. This is the first bilateral meeting between the two leaders in the last 5 years. The Galwan clash had led to deterioration in relations between both sides and tensions at the LAC. This comes after India and China declared disengagement at all friction points at the LAC 2 days ago. But how was this achieved? The inside story we have from top government sources is that China was also eager to resolve the LAC issue lately. Mr. Modi's twin visits to Russia in the last 3 months, despite
Back on with the update that the clock symbol of the Nationalist Congress Party will stay with Ajit Pawar. The Supreme Court has said earlier in the day, ruling in favor of Ajit Pawar and as a setback for Sharad Pawar ahead of the Maharashtra Assembly elections. The court, however, added that Ajit Pawar faction has to meticulously follow its earlier order and add disclaimers in election advertisements clarifying that the court is yet to take a final decision in the matter. Meanwhile, sources indicate that the Mahayuti discussions in Delhi have been successful. Talks have been between Mahayuti leaders and under the aegis of the Union Home Minister Amit Shah were positive and fruitful. Discussions were held in a cordial atmosphere without any disputes. The primary focus of the discussions was quote-unquote elective merit, winnability. For constituencies where ambiguity remains or perhaps there's a difference of opinion, decision will be made on the winning potential of the candidates. Now, while the Delhi discussions have now concluded, the final round of talks will take place in Maharashtra. Official announcement of the final seat-sharing formula will soon be made in Maharashtra. Mayuresh Ganpate joins us with more details. When is this likely, Mayuresh? And when it comes to winnability, whoever is chosen, will the others back? Will there be a proper, full, whole and soul vote transfer?
That's the message what we are getting from this particular meeting, and that's why Amit Shah had conveyed this meeting with all the stakeholders of Mahayuti, especially regarding the Maharashtra State Assembly elections. And he has given the straight message that the winnability should be the formula first, and winnability should be the criteria while electing or choosing the candidates. And we are hopeful that when all these leaders will come to Maharashtra, they will announce the formula. Because, Anand, if you remember that both the alliances in Maharashtra are yet to declare officially their formula for this particular election. The seat-sharing formula is still not been fixed from both the sides. So it would be interesting to see whether Mahayuti, who announces their list first, whether it was BJP, NCP, or even the third party NCP. So whether this Mahayuti announces their seat sharing formula and get the advantage of get that advantage or not, that needs to be seen. But as I said, the meeting was fruitful, and all the leaders will be they are likely to come back today.
Right, we'll see which of the groupings, the Mahayuti or the Mahavikas Aghadi, which of them announces final agreement on all the 208 seats, ladies and gentlemen, because viewers, we'd like to tell you that the Maha Aghadi is also agreed only on 270 seats so far, 18 seats still a toss-up, perhaps in Vidarbha region and also in Mumbai. Let's see who gets it all right first. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, focus shifts to Canada. Recalled envoy to Canada, Sanjay Verma, shreds into the Trudeau administration, says he was backstabbed. What he told us here at CNN News 18 and what actually happened and what he feels now, we'll play that out when we come back. Stay with us.
Brought to you by
Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with Xi Jinping, the President of the People's Republic of China, on the sidelines of the 16th BRICS Summit at Kazan on 23rd October. This is the first bilateral meeting between the two leaders in the last 5 years. The Galwan clash had led to deterioration in relations between both sides and tensions at the LAC. This comes after India and China declared disengagement at all friction points at the LAC 2 days ago. But how was this achieved? The inside story we have from top government sources is that China was also eager to resolve the LAC issue lately. Mr. Modi's twin visits to Russia in the last 3 months, despite pressure from the US, got China on board for an agreement, top sources say. The talks reached an advanced stage in the last 6 months, leading to a full disengagement now. Top sources said that the disengagement and the de-escalation on LAC will be quick as well, with both sides eager to move fast to settle the issue. Patrolling from both sides will also begin soon on both sides of the LAC. The de-induction of the troops will be the final step of this process, which will depend on India's watch and verify approach with China. Well, the urgency to settle this issue quick reflected in Mr. Modi's talks with Jinping as well. Mr. Modi welcomed the recent agreement for complete disengagement and the resolution of issues that arose in 2020 in the India-China border areas. PM Modi also underscored the importance of properly handling differences and disputes and not allowing them to disturb peace and tranquility. The two leaders in fact have agreed that the special representatives on the India-China boundary question will meet at an early date to oversee the management of peace and tranquility in border areas and to explore a fair, reasonable and mutually acceptable solution to the boundary question. The early date being requested by both sides for these talks shows the urgency, as I said earlier, for a de-escalation on the LAC in a quickest possible time. The relevant dialogue mechanisms at the level of foreign ministers and other officials will also be utilized to stabilize and rebuild bilateral relations, a statement from India has said. The two leaders in fact affirmed that a stable, predictable and amicable bilateral relations between India and China as the two neighbors and the two largest nations on earth will have a positive impact on regional as well as global peace and prosperity. It will also contribute to a multipolar Asia and a multipolar world, the statement by India has significantly said. The two leaders have also underlined the need to progress bilateral relations from a strategic and a long-term perspective, enhancing strategic communication and explore cooperation to address developmental challenges. 31 rounds of diplomatic meetings and 21 rounds of military talks over 4 years and 2 crucial meetings that Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar and China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi in July has paved the way for India and China to achieve this agreement over disengagement at the LAC. There were 7 points of conflict on the LAC since the Galwan clash in 2020, 5 of which had seen disengagement, but the troops from both sides had remained in an eyeball-to-eyeball conflict in Depsang Plains and Demchok. Both sides have now disengaged on the remaining 2 points too. Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with Xi Jinping, the President of the People's Republic of China, on the sidelines of the 16th BRICS Summit at Kazan on 23rd October. This is the first bilateral meeting between the two leaders in the last 5 years. The Galwan clash had led to deterioration in relations between both sides and tensions at the LAC. This comes after India and China declared disengagement at all friction points at the LAC 2 days ago. But how was this achieved? The inside story we have from top government sources is that China was also eager to resolve the LAC issue lately. Mr. Modi's twin visits to Russia in the last 3 months, despite pressure from the US, got China on board for an agreement, top sources say. The talks reached an advanced stage in the last 6 months, leading to a full disengagement now. Top sources said that the disengagement and the de-escalation on LAC will be quick as well, with both sides eager to move fast to settle the issue. Patrolling from both sides will also begin soon on both sides of the LAC. The de-induction of the troops will be the final step of this process, which will depend on India's watch and verify approach with China. Well, the urgency to settle this issue quick reflected in Mr. Modi's talks with Jinping as well. Mr. Modi welcomed the recent agreement for complete disengagement and the resolution of issues that arose in 2020 in the India-China border areas. PM Modi also underscored the importance of properly handling differences and disputes and not allowing them to disturb peace and tranquility. The two leaders in fact have agreed that the special representatives on the India-China boundary question will meet at an early date to oversee the management of peace and tranquility in border areas and to explore a fair, reasonable and mutually acceptable solution to the boundary question. The early date being requested by both sides for these talks shows the urgency, as I said earlier, for a de-escalation.
In his first interview post his exit from Canada and after coming back into India, recalled Indian Envoy Sanjay Verma has accused Canadian politicians of promoting Khalistan for quote-unquote electoral gains. Escalating the attack on Justin Trudeau, the diplomat told PTI that Canada had a very small number of Khalistani supporters who managed to shout the loudest and gain political patronage. He also said just about 10,000 Sikhs in Canada are hardline Khalistanis. A handful of them have made Khalistan a business in Canada. He also said Khalistanis are indulging in human trafficking and gun running. He also added that these Khalistanis collect money through gurudwaras for business and went on to say that they intimidate other Sikhs by threatening their families. He contended that Canadian politicians promote Khalistan for electoral gains and further contended that Khalistani supporters shout the loudest and gain political patronage.
Look, today I would say that about 10,000 of people in the Sikh community in Canada would be hardline Khalistanis.
Only 10,000?
Only 10,000. So it's just a handful. But they have made Khalistan into a business. In the name of Khalistan, they do human trafficking, they do drug trafficking, they do gun running. So they earn a lot of money through that. Then a lot of money would be collected in the gurudwaras, place of reverence and religious worship. And then they would use a part of that money into all nefarious jobs. So what then they do is, since that is the business for them, then these 10,000 intimidate others to join in. जो क्रिमिनल्स हैं, जो टेररिस्ट हैं, जो एक्सट्रीमिस्ट हैं, उनके अगेंस्ट हम कोई एक्शन नहीं लेते हैं, तो वो भी एक तरह का प्रोत्साहन ही है. तो वो प्रोत्साहन वहाँ पर काफ़ी देखा जाता है, चाहे वो डोमेस्टिक वोट बैंक के लिए हो या फिर कोई और राजनीतिक कारण के लिए हो.
Lambasting Canada's claims on naming him person of interest in the Nijjar killing plot, he said Hardeep Nijjar was a terrorist for Bharat. He also said that anything extrajudicial is wrong in a democracy and he mentioned that truth must come out in the Nijjar killing case. He added that Bharat has never done anything covert and that Canada has not shared a shred of evidence till date.
Nijjar was a terrorist to us. But then anything which is extrajudicial for any democracy, any rule of law country is wrong. So it was wrong for us as well. We always told them that we want to reach the bottom of the whole episode. so that you are satisfied, we are satisfied. But unfortunately, so far, despite whatever talks they have done in public, we have not seen a shred of evidence.
Now, while speaking with us here on the right stand on CNN News 18, the recalled envoy to Canada, Sanjay Verma, had flagged concerns 6 months ago while speaking on the Khalistani issue. 6 months later, speaking for the first time after exit, he says how he was backstabbed. At that time, he had said even though they fear for their safety and their concerns, he was confident that the Canadian authorities will cooperate and help and ensure their security. Today, he feels he's been backstabbed.
After a bit of conversation, then they told me that I, along with 5 other Indian diplomats and officials, are persons of interest in the inquiry of killing of Nijjar. And therefore, there was a request to waive off my diplomatic immunity as well as diplomatic immunity of my colleagues. This demonstrates kind of a backstabbing. See, there is something which we have said time and again, and that is that there is political space given to these Khalistani terrorists and extremists based out of Canada. And this political space has been creating difficulties, and the kind of space which are given now, I think it will create much more difficult scenarios for the future. I see a lot of narratives created by the Khalistani elements here, pro-Khalistan elements here, who have got patronage from some of these elected leaders. So yes, that is being peddled on various kinds of propagandist social media, and that is my worry. We had maintained our position on that we need something relevant and specific to see, for us to look into it. Unfortunately, nothing of that kind has been shared so far. The threat itself will not go off till the time the core concern is not addressed. So till the time you have Khalistani terrorists and extremists living in Canada and they are not taken to account, they will continue threatening us.
And it's a CNN News 18 mega exclusive that we now bring to you. CNN News 18 decodes the nexus of the ISI, Punjab youth and gangsters in Canada. Intel sources have told CNN News 18 that Canada has resorted to non-cooperation in the guise of freedom of expression. Letter rogatories and Interpol notices are all pending in Canada without them moving an inch on it. And that Justin Trudeau and his administration successfully playing the game of the ISI to keep the Sikh diaspora engaged, thinking that this Khalistan narrative is what is going to get them votes. The youth of Punjab are first taken to Canada, forced to speak and act against Bharat. These men are then wanted by Bharat and they get easy visa access to Canada with the help of the ISI so that they can do more crimes from Canadian soil against Bharat, activities that are nefarious in the first place. And these are all wanted. It's a long laundry list. 5-6 of them we have already submitted letter rogatories who are active in Pakistan, in Canada right now and working at the edges of the ISI in cahoots with them. The likes of Arsh Dalla, the likes of Goldie Brar, the likes of Sandeep Sidhu. There are many like this, some of them finding employ even with the Canadian administration. Intel sources have further said that these letter rogatories are long pending with the Canadian authorities. Ramnik Maan, activist with us, Terry Milashki, author with us, Abhishek Banerjee, columnist with us. Namaste, gentlemen. Thank you very, very much. Now, what happened with the Trudeau administration last night is one aspect, that there is pressure building against Justin Trudeau. The other aspect is there is active evidence, not credible allegations, against these entities who are now operating in Canadian soil. Ramnik Maan, how? And then you have Sanjay Verma who says, I feel backstabbed.
Well, Anand, there are 2-3 very quick points that I'd like to make. Number one is amongst the diaspora, the Indian diaspora in Canada, Hindus outnumber Sikhs by about 100,000. And as per Mr. Sanjay Verma, there are about 10,000 odd Khalistanis who are radicalized. So as vote bank is concerned, unless, the diaspora steps forward and shows their own strength in terms of how they would vote or how the voting pattern will be, these people will continue to exploit the political landscape in Canada, number one. Number two, well, of course, we all understand that the Five Eyes, including Canada, US, UK, New Zealand, Australia, they've been patronizing Khalistanis, they've been patting them on the back, and they've allowed people like, Nijjar and Pannu to peddle an anti-India narrative. Well, if they want a Khalistan for themselves, and US and Canada are very large countries, they can allocate them space, and they can have a dance, a ball around their flag if they want to. Also, one aspect which is very, very pertinent to mention here is that persistently, despite requests by the government of India for extradition or for arrest, they have not done anything. They have not moved a muscle over these years. So, if they are not acting against people who are designated terrorists in India, if they are patronizing them, if they are using them within their country for their personal political gains, I mean, Anand, the very relevant question here is, how is Canada any different from Pakistan then? Because Pakistanis have been using these K elements for a very long time against India.
Correct.
And it has been a part of their state policy. And apparently, when the Canadian Prime Minister on the floor of the Parliament refers to a designated terrorist as an honourable citizen of Canada, it appears very clearly that even Canada is using terrorism against India as its state policy. So I now feel that the Indian diplomacy, the Indian outreach should be working or operating in a way where we turn the heat onto the Canadians and ask them to act against Pannu and others who've been, persistently threatening. I remember from last year, it was 19th of November 2023, if I am correct, that he had first given a warning against Air India.
September,
or people
sir.
asking them not to fly Air India.
Yeah, Pannu,
and then
Pannu.
the threats
Yes,
came
correct.
about the Indo-Canadian Hindus to leave Canada or their visas to be cancelled and they be ousted from Canada. I mean, if this is how they're going to behave and act, and the larger diaspora, the community, the Hindus and pro-Indian Sikh, if they keep quiet and they allow the 10,000 odd, as per Mr. Sanjay Verma, radicals to take over the narrative,
Right.
I think it's a very bad situation for a country like Canada.
Right. Now, intel sources have also told CNN News 18 that Canada is not sensitive about the demands of Bharat. Sikh for Justice Chief and Khalistani terrorist Gurpatwant Singh Pannu is operating from the UK, US and Canada, giving every possible threat, but there is no response by the country. Indian missions, Hindus, Sikhs have been attacked by the SFJ. They've been verbally threatened. They've been socially threatened. Their families' profiles have been put on social media, and there has been intimidation that's happened. But despite many requests by Bharat, there has been no action against them. Sources have also said,
Pakistan of the West.
yeah, and SFJ has also threatened Indian ambassadors and missions, along with a role in the murders and extortion gangs operating in Punjab here in Bharat. Now, moreover, Sandeep Singh Sidhu, employed by the Canadian Border Service Agency, has links with Khalistani terrorists such as Lakhbir Singh and US-based Gurjot Kaur. He is wanted in the murder of a Shaurya Chakra awardee. It is important for Bharat to probe Sandeep's role. Meanwhile, Arsh Dalla is also radicalizing youth in criminal activities, and many attacks have happened after his appeal. So these are all issues which the Canadian authorities are aware of, and there is credible proof. Terry Millerski, how would you see this? And also, what happened in the caucus last evening? Your take.
Okay, I'll give you a quick answer on that one first, and that is that what happened was the first sounding of the death knell for Justin Trudeau's political career, perhaps not the very first, but 24 MPs, what he's got about, I think it's 152, so it's not a majority, but it's still scary if you're trying to hang on to your job as leader of the Liberal Party. It's not going well for him. I continue to believe that he won't lead the Liberals in the next election, which is due next year. As for the question before us about what do we do about people who are in Canada and apparently threatening quite cleverly under Canadian law? Let's give you an example. You're talking about Pannoon. Pannoon says that he puts up posters saying, calling Indian diplomats killers. and wants to hang them. And basically, he is deliberately endangering their safety. Now, it seems to me that the free speech arguments fall down at that point. But so far, for years and years, I'm talking about 40 years, Canadian governments of all political stripes, not just the Liberals, have been very reluctant to do their duty and grasp that nettle and take it to court. And okay, there might be a battle. Well, he didn't say, for example, Panoon again. Panoon didn't say that he was going to blow up Air India. He just said, you could be risking your life if you fly Air India. Now, that's what he said. Now, then he said, oh, no, I just meant a boycott. Well, come on. How does a boycott threaten your life? It doesn't. You know, it's pretty clear that he means something other than what he's saying. So he thinks, he sometimes he's a little too clever, is my point. So I believe that there are many cases where a more courageous approach, a more determined approach by the Canadian authorities, regardless of political stripe, as I say, would benefit both sides. We'd get rid of some people that we don't, that are not doing Canada any good, and India would get the return. But on the other side, there is also a weakness in the Indian case sometimes. If you could read, for example, the judgment of Justice Patel of the Delhi High Court, in which he approved of the government of India's designation of Sikhs for Justice as a terrorist organization. Well, read it, and then tell me, what terrorist act did Panoon commit? It's not easy to find it. And you know, you're welcome to write to me and tell me, okay, look at this paragraph, this shows that he did. Well, it's not obvious in many of these cases that just designating somebody as a terrorist means that under Canadian law, there's a prosecution to be had. It's more complicated than that.
But a U.S. national in an Indian origin U.S. national or a student made an utterance in America, and he was put behind bars immediately when he issued a verbal threat. So how can you have different standards for different times? And who are these entities who are calling for accountability? There is proof that's been given for some of the other citizens who have committed acts of crime, and they are also gangsters in Canada. Where is the arrest for them? Where is the action for them? And why is it that you have federal operatives who are giving Gurpat and Panoon a cow of fire? So much so, Abhishek Banerjee, that the American ambassador to India, US ambassador to India, Eric Garcetti, tries to draw a line between verbal threats and actual threats. Quite rich coming from the US. And what does that mean? That is this all largely being orchestrated by the American deep state, the CIA? Even what Pakistani narrative was, perhaps was it choreographed by the CIA and American deep state?
Yeah, so Anand, so I would say that so much has been said on this topic that I wonder what new I can say. I guess the only new thing I can add is some historical perspective so that even Indians know what we are dealing with in terms of the Trudeau political dynasty. You see, the Trudeau dynasty, it has a long history of collaborating with everyone. Khalistanis, Nazis, fascists. We know that the mastermind, the person who became the mastermind of the Kanishka bombings, India had repeatedly asked for that person to be extradited to India. Pierre Trudeau did not listen, and now you see what has gone on. Remember that when Justin Trudeau came to India, he brought with him this guy who had actually been convicted in Canada itself for an assassination attempt against a minister from our Punjab. Now, that's for Khalistanis. I should also add that about 5-6 years ago, there was a spat between Canada and Russia, where Justin Trudeau, he expelled 4 Russian diplomats. And the reason he had for that was that the Russian diplomats had exposed that his deputy prime minister, Chrystia Freeland, her family were hardcore Nazi leaders in Ukraine. Now, she is not responsible for what her family has done, but why is the Trudeau government trying to cover it up? Because the Trudeau government has always had a soft corner for Nazis. We know that last year, Justin Trudeau's government invited somebody from the dreaded SS Galizia regiment of the Ukrainian Nazis. And that's the...
Chrystia Freeland, by the way, is not a Nazi. What that reference to, that story is extremely overhyped and overtalked. Her grandfather was a Ukrainian who was dragooned into this role of publishing a newspaper which the Nazis read. It's grossly overhyped, and it's an attempt to wrongly tar Chrystia Freeland as some kind of Nazi. It's absurd. Even if her grandfather was a Nazi, it doesn't say anything about her or about the subject before.
But my problem is that for all this talk about righteousness and also logic, etc., Ramneek Man, why is it Justin Trudeau not turning around and asking Jagmeet Singh, if you want a Khalistan, where is Nankana Sahib? Where is Kartarpur corridor? Why is Lahore not the capital? Why is there no Pakistan there? If you really are talking about Sikh nationalism, where is the true Punjab? Why aren't you asking for rights to the Jhelum waters?
That is very true. As a matter of fact, I personally, feel that, since it's a very well coordinated effort between the Five Eyes and the ISI, and these people are being used, I personally feel, honestly, and I would back this with a lot of evidence that Nijjar was being used by the Canadian CSIS. And now Panu is being used by the CIA and CSIS and ISI alike. And the day his use is over, they will dump him like a hot potato. And referring to Talvinder Parmar, let me remind you that on 20th of October in BC, Surrey, there was a memorial. He was remembered. There was a huge program in Guru Nanak Sikh Temple, Surrey. So this is how they're permitting to celebrate the killers of Canadians. Not just Indians, but also Canadians. Let me also add for Terry here. Terry, do you know that within Canada, there is a demand for Alberta, British Columbia, Cascadia, Newfoundland Island and Labrador, Quebec, Saskatchewan, Vancouver Island, Nova Scotia, Alberta and Manitoba? Why don't you first address these issues within your country? You divide your country, balkanize Canada, make these smaller nations, let people have a taste of how they can earn sovereignty and the freedom from Canada before you start to advocate, or your country or your prime ministers or your establishment or your CSIS or your CIA or the Five Eyes start to advocate free speech. When people talk about balkanizing India, how about it?
Let Terry answer that. He has a very strong point of view on those actions by the Trudeau administration. So yes, Terry.
It's probably not as strong as mine. He's simply pointing his finger at the wrong guy. Because I for 20 years have been campaigning to stop the disgusting spectacle of posters glorifying Talvinder Parmar as a great hero of the Sikh nation. I think it's an absolute disgrace, and all parties should have long ago stopped that, and they haven't. I've gone much further than you also in terms of the...
I was talking about the free speech narrative that the Canadian government keeps spelling out. Why don't you allow these people a separate nation? Why don't you first allow these people to hold a referendum?
The Trudeau administration standards of free speech were shown how shallow they are when they arrested a journalist who put out a post against Justin Trudeau. Yes, Terry, please complete.
I am not an advocate for the Khalistanis in Canada, okay?
I agree, I know. You're not, I know.
All right, well, stop this. Why don't you do this? I'm doing what I can, and I think I've done more than you so far.
You means your government, sir. You don't take it personally.
I don't defend the government. I'm not here to speak for the government. I'm simply saying there is a legitimate and real difference of views between India and Canada on what constitutes free speech, and Canada has gone not far enough in dealing with hate speech, and they've also failed to introduce legislation, as for example the British have, to outlaw the glorification of terrorism, which would apply to the glorification posters of the Air India bomb.
But the sad part is, Terry, that part of the Five Eyes, the UK, is also allowed these elements of free run, and they have also violated their own laws while extending this. So that begs me to ask this question. Final minute to Abhishek. Is there a larger game at play? Are these the unseen hands which are actually prompting the likes of Canada, the ISI, and encouraging them to do this against Bharat on a deliberate narrative to try and keep this pinprick on? Abhishek?
Hello. Yeah. So, Canada is a satellite state of the United States. Anything that Canada does has to happen with the sanction of the US. The US is a superpower. Of course, it will never show its hands openly. What it used to do in the past with Pakistan, today they are doing it through Canada. If I was Canadian, I would be quite ashamed and really concerned about that. Canada is now America's replacement for Pakistan.
Well, again, Pakistan of the West, is that an adage that Canada would want, and especially under this Trudeau administration, that terminology, that idiom is increasingly getting finding chorus, at least in this part of the world. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for your thoughts. With that, we call it a wrap on this edition of The Right Stand. Zaka Reddy with Brass Tacks.
Good evening, this is Brass Tacks. I'm Zaka Jacob. Recalled former Indian High Commissioner to Canada, Sanjay Kumar Verma, has broken his silence. He has said that him being included as a person of interest in a murder investigation felt like a backstab from Canada after having served as a diplomat in that country for at least 2 years. He also said that there is a tiny minority, according to him just about 10,000 or so, in a community that is more than 8 lakh strong, who are hardline Khalistanis. So the question then is, why is Mr. Trudeau pandering to this tiny minority? Here are some excerpts from the interview with Ambassador Verma, and then we'll go across to our guests.
After a bit of conversation, then they told me that I, along with 5 other Indian diplomats and officials, are persons of interest in the inquiry of killing of Nijjar. And therefore, there was a request to waive off my diplomatic immunity as well as diplomatic immunity of my colleagues. This demonstrates kind of a backstabbing. But unfortunately, so far, despite whatever talks they have done in public, we have not seen a shred of evidence from them. We have not been shared. I shouldn't talk about what they have or they have not. We have not been shared any shred of evidence. Due to lenient Canadian legal system, they were able to get their permanent residence in Canada, citizenship in Canada. They sought asylum in Canada. According to the last information that I have, 5 of them had been resolved. 21 are still pending. And these are pending since decade. So I would say that there is an inaction rather than consultation.
Interrupting for some breaking news that's just coming through. There's been a terrorist attack in Gulmarg.